A colourful view of Australian life in the 20th century, picked from the 11 million photos stored at the National Archives of Australia.
The exhibition starts with the Department of Information that was formed in 1939 in response to World War II, and their job was really to tell the world about what Australia was doing and tell Australians about what Australia was doing.
The department did its own publications and exhibitions, handling all sorts of requests along the way.
We even have a letter from a student in California that came to the Information Bureau in the 1950s, and she was asking if someone in Australia would be interested in exchanging a koala for a classroom pet.
The exhibition features major moments in Australian history, such as Cyclone Tracy, but mainly covers day-to-day Australian life, from the Snowy Hydro through to the Macquarie Pool slides. It features the work of photographers like Tim Acker, who learnt his craft at Narrabundah College in the 70s and 80s, and trailblazers like the government's first Indigenous photographer, Mervyn Bishop.
They were quite amazed, I think, a lot of the times that me being a blackfella taking photos, and he can do it, he's pretty smart, this lad.
As well as fellow pioneer Jocelyn Burt, who because of her gender could only get freelance work, but balanced that with her other career.
We've got great photographs that she took in the Torres Strait, so she would go up there, do nursing and take these photographs.
The exhibition will run in Canberra until June before touring the country, highlighting Australia's unique way of life and its ever-changing culture. Peter Lusted, ABC News, Canberra.
It's not a skull cave, but a suburban home in regional Queensland where comic book hero The Phantom comes to life. Illustrator Shane Foley takes us for a look behind the drawing board and a new exhibition showcasing the enduring legacy of the Masked Crusader.
Just like any superhero, Shane Foley is an ordinary man with an extraordinary ability, creating the artwork and storylines behind the Phantom comic book.
Phantom artists are just people. We're normal people living in normal houses in normal suburbs. Hard it is to believe. I don't have a secret identity.
It's in his home studio in Bundaberg where the pages come to life, eventually ending up in newsagents across the country.
I use the old way of paper, drawing it in pencil, inking it with a brush and a pen. It's really old-fashioned.
His love for the Masked Crusader was sparked while reading his first comic at 7 years old. Now in his 60s, not much has changed. Originating in American newspapers in the 1930s, the comic book has had huge success in Australia.
Currently, The Phantom in Australia is the longest continuously running comic book in the world. It's nearly up to its 2000th edition.
It's being celebrated with a new exhibition at the Bundaberg Art Gallery, with vintage comics, memorabilia and a cinematic experience from the 1943 production of the Phantom serial.
Where is he? Where's who? The Phantom. The Phantom?
We also have artworks and collectibles from all over Australia, and we've been able to work really closely with a number of collectors, and they actually have been very generous in lending things that you wouldn't normally get to see.
One of the highlights are these original Phantom drawings by illustrator Cy Barry. They've come all the way from his personal collection in the United States.
There should be many facets of interest there, not only for people that like the Phantom nostalgically, but how a comic book can be done and how ordinary, normal people do these things.
Johanna Marie, ABC News, Bundaberg.
And that's the latest regional news. I'm Amy Colpert. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next time.
Australian basketballer Josh Giddey.
It's really funny. I started off never being a sport fan. I grew up being bad at sport, but what got me into sport is the fact that I related most to the players and I felt the most seen by the players. And so some of those first players were in the NRL. So became really close friends with a few NRL players that, I came into their lives when they were going through the most hardship, through mental health, through injuries, and I built it out for them. So we're currently in discussion in the NRL. Hopefully, fingers crossed, by December, we get to kick off a league with them and a cohort with them with their athletes. Secondly, the AFL cohort's also really close to us, and that's because we have two amazing partners. We have Levin Shevke in Cornwalls, who's on the board of the Western Bulldogs, and we also have Vince LeBon, who is the CEO and founder of Rolly, and they've been two incredible allies in this to really pave the way and open up that door, even into the NBL space and NBA space and international football space with the Matildas all the way to your Messis of the world. So, yeah.
Your career doesn't look like it's been that long. So tell us how early it was that you were involved with the UN and how that came about.
So, yeah, I started my career when I was 13, 14. So from ages 13 to 15, I was in the UN. And a lot of times people go, how do you start? And I was just a really curious kid, and I kind of realized, well, I have free internet and I got good stalker skills. So why not I start emailing CEOs of major companies? I was emailing this president of Mattel, Bob Iger from Disney, all these massive people. And essentially what I got was really supportive, almost like recommendation emails. And so when the United Nations came to Singapore, where I was living at that time, to kind of go, hey, we're looking to train up our next cohort of youth ambassadors, specifically for the SDGs. My teachers all kind of went, pick that kid, because that kid's the most outspoken kid you can find, and you can train her up however you want to train her up. So from there, I got kind of plucked into that world. And like I said, once you're in that UN world, the ambassadors you meet with are pretty insane, and I didn't get the grasp of it at that time because you're 13 or 15. You don't really recognize world leaders you're around. You don't really recognize the caliber of celebrities and influential figures you're around until I was probably 16, and I kind of went, hang on, I have the emails of some of the most influential people now in my iPhone notes. This is insane. And so by the time I was 17 and 18, I started essentially doing business strategy for your Netflix, Adidas, Gildan, helping them build out their platform and strategy for product design. And by the time I was 19, I became the youngest female speaker for AWS, so Amazon Web Services, in a panel, and was interviewed by Holly Ransom, who previously interviewed Obama and the Dalai Lama. And so from that, to me, I kind of was like, hang on, this is incredible, but also insane. And now at 20, I'm starting this journey in sport. So it couldn't be better.
Look, all the very best with it, Angelique Cooman, and it really is a story of what can be done, and it's a story of the future, isn't it? Because times are very different and there are so many tools that are available to people, and it just takes a little bit of thinking outside the box, which you have done. So well done with Athletes Business Accelerator and anything else that is in your future. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Tracy.